Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Deal. That transfer portal window been open for about 48 hours, and a lot of the discussion around the transfer portal has to do with those top guys, the guys that the national media are talking about. And hey, there's a lot of very good players in the transfer portal, especially at the top of the transfer portal. There's a lot of diamonds in the rough too. There are a record-breaking amount of football players entering their name into the portal. The teams that use the portal most successfully not only grab some of the top guys, but they find the diamonds in the rough as well. We have about four each still. We've kind of identified some of our guys, if you will, in the transfer portal. Want to get into, some of these players that the national media probably won't talk about. Some of them might even commit and not even get covered by some of these big media outlets, but guys that we think could really help some Power Four teams in 2025. Fired up to get into it. Before we do it, as always, it's going to be busy. It's been busy for the last couple of days, and the amount of support y'all have shown the boys as we've talked the transfer portal, it's been amazing. Appreciate you guys. A lot of commitments to break down over the next couple of weeks. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Look, much more importantly, everybody's got one or two of their guys. Throw them in the comments section. Dill, I'm going to give you the T-box because this is one of your guys. Former Nebraska linebacker Mikai Gbayor, really been your guy before the 2024 season even started. Saw the people. I'm a guy.
And I think what jumps out is the versatility. You look at where he's played for this Nebraska team. He played a lot in 2023 along the line of scrimmage in that edge spot, in more of that edge spot, if you will. And then you saw his development into that off-ball linebacker role, which I think does fit him better. Again, you still see the ability to take on blocks and be physical, but his maturation into being able to play in space a little bit better and operate in pass coverage and run guys down, all those things, I think I'm looking like – I don't love what is frankly in the portal for the off-ball linebacker position.
No.
So if your team was looking for it, he's a guy who I think gives you a lot of versatility, has a well-rounded skill set, and I think can be really helpful at least as a depth piece, but probably a starting piece.
I think he's a starter at the Power Four level. We saw that for Nebraska last year, which was one of the better defenses in the Big Ten. Once again, you make a good point. There's not a ton of, as of right now, and when this goes out on Wednesday morning, it might change. As of right now, there's not a ton of guys at the off-ball backer position where I'm looking at and saying, yeah, that's a bona fide P4 guy. Is Mikai Gbayor going to be a first-team all-conference dude? No, probably not. But he's going to be a guy you can trust. And what it stands out to me, Dill, fourth on the team in tackles, only a 10% missed tackle rate, finds the ball carrier, brings the ball carrier to the ground, does the simple stuff right at the linebacker position. And like you said, versatility. Whatever Nebraska defender you get, and we're going to talk about another one real quick, you're going to get some versatility because they move those guys all around the defense. Still, another guy kind of tee up here, defensive lineman Jamari Butler. To me, a similar conversation. Is Jamari Butler going to be an all-conference guy? Probably not. Is it going to be a damn solid rotational piece on the defensive line and potentially a high MP4 starter? Yeah, I think that's certainly it. And look, everybody wants to stud on the defensive line, and having those game wreckers are certainly important. You're only as good as your depth. And we say this all the time. Look at Michigan last year. Look at Georgia the last couple of years. Some of the best defensive lines we've seen in the country. Yeah, they had those NFL dudes, but they also have guys that are playing 20 snaps a game the broadcast won't talk about. But if you have a big drop-off when your studs are on the sideline sucking air, it's going to be a problem. Jamari Butler is one of those guys where I don't know if he plays 50 snaps a game for you, but he's going to be a very, very good rotational piece and gives you that versatility on the edge, potentially kicking into the three tech as well.
And I think his development of his pass rush game was probably the biggest thing because I felt like in 23, when you watch, the pass rush just wasn't close enough. And that's like, if you're a liability to that extent in the pass rush game, he was always a pretty solid run defender. I think he was good at getting in the backfield and making some plays, but just not a good enough pass rusher. Again, I think you saw in his time at Nebraska him take those steps as a pass rusher where, again, his bread and butter is still probably going to be playing the run and being a physical defensive end. But I think you can keep him on the field a little bit more going forward because his pass rush is much better.
That type of stuff matters. Like when we talk about edge rushers, we always talk about the pass rush numbers, which is how you make your money in the NFL. Sacks, create negative plays. How do you put yourself in position to create negative plays? You win on first and second down, setting up those third and long spots where you can pin your ears back and get after the passer. Ja'Mari Butler might be a guy that, all right, we're going to play you on first and second down, maybe take you off the field on third down and send in one of our pass rushers. That stuff matters. Not talked about. Certainly matters when you're looking for defensive lineman. Dill, this is another one of your guys, Logan Loya from UCLA. He's going to be a 6-year senior, I believe. Production's not crazy, but this is a guy that's going to get the job done for you 100%.
And it's not crazy. And part of that, I think, frankly, has been the instability in that offense over the past
Yeah, it's been
couple of years.
horrible. Yeah.
But I look at a guy who, especially in 23, when there was a little bit more going and they weren't such a bad team, I think was pretty steady for them. I mean, up over 600 yards, was open a lot, savvy receiver. Now, he's not a Barry and Brown. He's not a Dane Key. He's not a Deuce Robinson, like these guys who have more of that number one receiver kind of capability at the power 4 level. But he's a guy who I think, again, third downs, those situational footballs, like he does do a good job getting open. I think he's very quarterback friendly, if you will. And there's a lot of value to that. It's not,
Look at what Xavier Restrepo's doing. Look at what Xavier Restrepo's doing for Miami. Like he's not a guy that's going to run a crazy 40. He's not going to guy that's going to be jumping out of the gym. Crafty route runner, knows how to beat man coverage, knows how to sit it down in zone. Those guys matter, and they might not be flashy, but they get the job done, especially like you said, Dill, on third downs. Last guy, and this is a joint, our guy, because he was on my list too, Jaylen Braxton. A healthy Jaylen Braxton, the Jaylen Braxton we saw in 2023, that's an all-conference caliber player. And I think people forget how good he was, and we're kind of stretching under the radar here. I mean, he's the 69th prospect in the transfer portal right now, the 8th best cornerback. He should be treated like one of the best cornerbacks in this transfer portal class, though.
Yeah, and especially when you kind of account for age and the fact that you do get a couple years with him.
He's a young buck.
And I don't know that we've really seen him at his best, if you will. Again, like still a lot of development for him to do. But yeah, you said it. You saw him playing as a true freshman. That was really good football. And I do think people forgot about it because of the injury. But if you go back to that tape, good tackler, good man coverage, had good ball skills. Like that was a pretty complete corner we saw for the most part.
One of those guys that you kind of know what you're getting if you get Jaylen Braxton healthy. He's a very solid cornerback. But that was when we saw the solid cornerback, he's a true freshman. Like, what does he look like as a more developed cornerback and athlete? Could be looking at an all-conference kind of guy. I got one that I don't think you have heard of yet, Dill, so I'll just take the wheel here, AJ Peña from Rhode Island. I'm just going to read you off the numbers. It appeared on my Twitter timeline. I did a little digging. Dill, 82 tackles, 22 and a half tackles for loss, 12 and a half sacks in one season. The production's incredible for this kid. Yes, 6'2", 240. The measurables are probably not great. That's probably why he winded up at Rhode Island coming out of high school. One of the things that we do that I dislike is sometimes we just discount production at lower levels of college football. Yes, is there an element of you got to make that step up to just a different caliber of athlete you're working against? Yeah, absolutely. We've seen a lot of guys do that. I mean, Jared Verse is probably the best example. You talk about a guy like John Pierce going to Wisconsin, probably their best edge rusher. Like the guys that can produce in the FCS, I'm willing to take a stab. And even if you get half the production that you got from him at Rhode Island, he's going to be a very solid football player for you.
And that's the frustrating part about defensive line recruiting in the portal is I still think I look at all these guys who are, for lack of a better term, kind of retreads from the Power 5 level in guys who are still kind of relying on their high school recruiting to carry the day, if you will, in terms of what they're going to be. Like that drives me nuts because at the end of the day, if you're playing into your third year and you still haven't produced at the college level, you're not going to be a producer. That's just who you're not a great player at that point. I look like there's some guys, and you look at the top of the defensive line room, a lot of those guys were 4 or 5-star kids coming out of high school. And I still feel like that recruiting ranking is just carrying through, even though the college play is not near what it should.
To me, it's if you're a first-year, second-year guy going into year 3, that's probably the last year I'll give you in terms of talking about the traits and potential. Let's just say it how it is, Dale. Keyshawn Silver. like 5-star defensive lineman. He's going into his 5th year of college football, has been solid, but has not been a 5-star guy, is kind of getting all the buzz in the transfer portal. Like you're 5 years removed from that 5-star ranking, and you haven't played like a 5-star player. And so, like, to me, and he's going to cost probably 3 times as much as a guy like AJ Peña. I know different positions, but kind of a similar idea, and I'm kind of with you. Dill, here's another one. I'm not sure how familiar you are. Cole Wisniewski from North Dakota State. Do it all state. There was a lot of bad secondary play for a lot of different teams in 2024. You want a guy that can just immediately come in and elevate your room. It's Cole Wisniewski. 6'4", 220, almost carries himself like a linebacker, plays a little linebacker in North Dakota State back in 2023. His numbers were incredible, led the team in tackles, 8 interceptions, can play nickel, can play backer, can go play the deeper third as a safety as well. Versatile chess piece that's played a lot of football and done it at a high level. This is one
He's
of
a
those
guy
guys.
I wish we got to see against Colorado. I think that to me would be able to crystallize more like his translatability. Because I looked at that North Dakota State schedule in 23, the year he was playing, obviously hurt for the 24 year. They didn't really bump up and play the teams with the type of athlete that I'd almost wish you got to see him with. Again, you can certainly do some translating from what you saw against teams like Montana. But, man, I wish you got to see him against a team like Colorado, because then you get to see him play P4 level athletes on the boundary. Not saying I don't believe in what he can do, because, again, when you're that productive, I'm willing to take the chance better than, like, again, those kind of retread guys who have never been productive at any level.
And he knows what he's doing. Like, we saw a lot. I mean, the Miami Hurricanes, like there were safety play where they legitimately, I don't even think, knew the play. Like, they really did not know what they were doing. Even if he's not the caliber of athlete of some of the guys, at least he's a reliable piece that can tackle in space and, like, knows how to play football at a high level. That's something that I think matters too. Okay, this is really stretching it in terms of diamonds in the rough, but I'm just going to talk about him because I think he's a stud. Quinten Joyner. Dill, look, this is why is he transferring from USC? Talk about NIL all you want. It's because he just didn't get enough work. Yes, Woody Marks was very good for USC. He was a hard running back to take off the field. Quinten Joyner, 63 carries for 478 yards. For those who don't want to do the math at home, 7.6 yards per carry, 23 missed tackles forced on 63 carries. 14 of his carries went for over 10 yards. He's 5'11", 215, has a 10.9 in the 100-meter dash coming out of high school. The film, the limited sample size, because Lincoln Riley refused to play him, is very good. This kid can be a legit running back one at the highest level of college football. Yes, he's the 40th ranked prospect in the transfer portal. I think I am even higher on him.
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard to find a better running back, especially given the age. Again, I look at what he was able to do at USC. I think he catches the ball well. I think he's a complete running back, not just straight line speed. I think he can run physically and give you kind of that 20-plus carries a game and be fine doing it. I'm with you. Again, I don't know that it's a total diamond in the rough, because I do think he's probably hunted by pretty much every team who needs a running back. And even if you don't need a running back, you still probably kick the tires because he's that good. But he's a really good player. I don't have anything else to say about it. I don't have anything against him as a player because he's awesome.
Jordan Matthews from Tennessee. Still hasn't played a ton at the college football level.
Like it.
And look, he's playing behind Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson. That's two of the better cornerbacks that we're seeing in the country right now. So just because Jordan Matthews hasn't gotten on the football field for Tennessee in year 2, I'm not going to necessarily hold it against him. Physical traits are dripping off this kid. And a 6'2", $185, 10.66 in the 100-meter dash coming out of high school. He's got 2 years of development. Now you kind of think year 3 is when it's going to probably click. Yes, he's an unknown because he hasn't played a ton. Betting on this kid every single day of the week.
Yep. No, I would definitely take a look at him, and for no other reason than teams, I think, need depth at the cornerback spot. I think, again, like, you probably trust, if you have good secondary coach, that you can bring him along in the way you need to. Because at the end of the day, I don't think his lack of ability to get on the field says a whole lot about him as much as it says, like what you said, they just have 2 elite guys out there.
Look, if you're a secondaries coach that believes in your ability to coach and develop, you want this kid in your room because he could be an All-American. Last one, Braelin Moore. Everyone's looking for starting caliber offensive lineman. What I love about Braelin Moore, Dale, one, really good football player. And again, I'm kind of stretching it here, but I feel like nobody's talking about him. This is a guy that started every single game this year at center. And then you go back to last year, started every single game at guard. So you get that center guard versatility. You get an experienced centerpiece in the offensive line. 375 pass per opportunities, 12 pressures, 3 sacks. To me, you're looking for a blue chip guy to kind of glue your offensive line together. And when the one thing we talk about all the time, and why I kind of mentioned the center guard versatility, when you're trying to build your best five, like having a guy that you trust at 2 different positions, I think is really important. You know, whether it's an injury that happens and then your next best five is with him moving to guard and playing another different center or vice versa. Depth and position versatility on the offensive line is becoming very important. I think back to when Michigan lost Zach Zinner and what we just did. Hey, we're going to shift Carson Barnhart in. We're our 6th best offensive lineman's a tackle. And you had that versatility. The Michigan offensive line didn't skip a beat. This is a guy that I think helps you build that best 5 offensive line, proven P4 starter. That's all I got. Dill, we got a ton of names to continue to update this conversation. A lot of commitments to break down too. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.